How's everybody's audio working? Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yep. Awesome.
All right, can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Okay,
Sure
great.
can.
I know we got 1 minute till 5:30, but Tad, it does look like we have quorum.
Yes, and now it is exactly 5:30 and we have quorum plus plus. Um so we can go ahead and get started. Um Briefly before our minutes, we have a new member, Stephen Leo. Uh Steve, could you introduce yourself really quick?
Steven, it sounds like you're muted or your audio's not picking up.
I think it's his audio. Now he's muted. Still can't hear you. All right. While Steve is figuring out his audio issues, do we have any changes to the minutes? All right. Hearing no corrections, the minutes stand as read. Um, let's go ahead and start with item number one. And if Steve chimes in later, we can do the intro later. Yeah, we still can't
Yeah.
hear you. Sorry.
I'll kick this one off really quick. So this is the first item on the agenda is the pedestrian detour and trail closure plan for a utility project happening on County Highway M. Uh, this is separate, but a similar project to the bridge reconstruction. We have some of the consultants on the line right now to talk through any questions that members of the committee have about the trail closure plan that was included in your packet. So with that, I'll uh, pass it back.
Yeah,
Kirsten?
It's, Matt Colvin with MG&E, project manager at MG&E. I've also got Roger Ellis on the line, and he is a senior gas design engineer. John Solon from Strand and Associates is also with us, and Strand has led multiple parts of this project, but the bridge design on behalf, which is being funded by the DOT and on behalf of Dane County. They've also assisted us with traffic control and our utility design at MG&E. They also have performed the public utility design of the water and sewer infrastructure that needs to be relocated to accommodate the bridge project as well. So I was just going to start, and I was just, oh, I guess Roger's got a drawing up here. Perfect. Um, so I'm sure everyone's familiar with the project site, Pheasant Branch Creek. You've got the intersection of Branch and Century. Allen is down here. Obviously, a very busy area. What's driving the entire project, just to give a sort of high-level zoomed out perspective, is the bridge project. The existing bridge has outlasted its useful life and needs replacement. One of the enhancements that's a big benefit to the community, and I would especially imagine very attractive to this group, is the bike pedestrian underpass, which will make a much safer passing, and it's no longer going to be at grade. So there will be access underneath the road for bikes and pedestrians, and the addition of the new trailhead, which is being built in conjunction with the bridge project next year. So certainly a long way to go to get there, but a uh, a huge win and significant improvement for the community with respect to pedestrians, bikes, the conservancy, um, and we're obviously about to start getting that construction underway. And again, the driver of this, all of this work, is the bridge project. Um, and in order for that bridge to get constructed, which takes the entire right of way, all gas and electric, telecoms and public utilities, water and sewer must be moved prior to that bridge construction taking place next year. We had lengthy conversation. We've been meeting with Dane County, some representatives of DOT, City of Middleton, Strand and Associates, MG&E, Verizon, Charter, and TDS is pretty much the project team, in order to figure out how we can build our infrastructure such that the bridge and the project driving all of this can take place next year. We've been putting tremendous effort and time. This is incredibly complex, especially with the creek there, which requires us to directionally drill new water, gas, two gas mains, and electric and telecom facilities. The overhead infrastructure cannot remain. It's in conflict with the crane that will be needed in order to build the bridge. So just a little bit of background of why all of this needs to happen. We started having these conversations late last fall when the bridge design was at a point where we could start coming up with ways to relocate and accommodate that construction and relocate all of our infrastructure. So this has been going on for quite a while with Dane County, Middleton, Strand, MG&E, Verizon, Charter, and TDS. And everyone has come together to develop a plan so that we can safely relocate all of our facilities ahead of the bridge project. It was deemed by all parties that this work should take place in the fall, so that we weren't running up and trying to coordinate all of this work in the spring before the bridge project started. Way too chaotic, way too much coordination, and in fact, somewhat of a dangerous scenario if we were to all try to be out there working at the same time next year. So it made a whole lot of sense for all of the utility work, or most of the utility work, to happen this fall and leave ourselves plenty of room for any remaining work and then the bridge work next year. So with that, I don't know, I'll let Roger kind of walk through some of the different detours that we have planned. But again, this is all um, to maintain safety. A lot of these detours are absolutely required just because we cannot have bikes and pedestrians coming through work zones at certain times due to the equipment and materials that are needed in order to install these new facilities. We obviously will do this as quickly and as safely as possible, and reroute traffic on the road as well as the bikes as safely and as efficiently as possible and have it signed properly. This is all to DOT and county standards. So this stuff is by the book. Um, and again, we will try to get this done as quickly as possible. Roger, did you want to chime in with a little bit more detail about some of the different detours and timelines?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Yeah, if it
I guess
thinks
one second, Roger, before we dive, did anyone have any questions about anything that I said or something that maybe wasn't clear? Okay, great.
yeah, thanks, Matt, and everyone in the committee here. If you think it will help the committee understand our project, I'd be willing to kind of go through the traffic control plans that some are shown already here on the screen here. I can go through some of that if it is going to help the committee here understand kind of like the different staging that we're going to be doing throughout the project here. If you think it helps, I will go through it right now. But if not, like Matt said, we can kind of go through some questions or comments or concerns.
This is Kirsten. I think it may be the most useful to have committee questions and concerns first and then have you go through it. But if somebody else in the committee feels differently, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, please fire away with questions and concerns.
Okay, so again, this is Kirsten. I have been following this project extremely closely from last fall. I was at the meeting at Cromery for the community, and I'm really curious, A, why this was not proposed at that meeting at Cromery. There was nothing mentioned of closures this fall. It was stated that it would begin in March or April and then continue for roughly 5 months. So now we're looking at a 7-month detour issue for vulnerable users and bus riders versus the 5 months, unless you're saying that this is going to cut down in construction time. And please let us know if that's what you're saying. But we're going into fall of this year that will really affect youth, vulnerable users and youth. And then starting next spring, which will affect them again during the school year into possibly the fall, depending on how well the project goes. This corridor is highly used by school kids, preteens, teens. If anybody goes along this corridor after school, they will notice that both sides, but especially the south side of Century, is extremely used or heavily used by kids after school. Going to Quick Trip, going to Geno's, using the Creek corridor to commute to school. And the main thing that I see here is the closures affecting that. Do you plan on doing any safe crossings at Amherst? That neighborhood, especially off of Amherst, has a lot of youth, and we need to have I feel we need to have a mobile or temporary RRFB placed, very similarly to what Madison did for the University Avenue project recently with the bridge or the culvert closure. They had an RRFB there so that people could cross safely. If we do not have temporary RRFB there, kids are going to be forced to go all the way down to Allen or all the way around to Donna, up to Donna and Century. Neither are going to be viable. You're going to see a lot of kids, and I'm saying kids mostly, but there will also be adults trying to play Dodger, getting across. And I know that at times the road is going to be constrained to 2 lanes, 1 lane in each direction. And I see a real safety issue there unless we have temporary RRFBs. And then I am curious how this is going to affect school bus routes, since now we're looking at a 2-year situation versus a 1-year situation.
Thanks, Kirsten and Roger. Maybe I'll start with just a question. There was a lot there to unpack, and we did have your comments from the last meeting, so it's something that we've given a lot of thought to and how to respond to these. And I think a lot of the responses will ease a lot of your concern. With respect to the timing, and I'm not sure you're referencing Cromery or something like that. When was that last year? This meeting that you're talking about?
It was the meeting last fall, where it was the community meeting briefing on this whole project.
Okay. So at that time, we were just learning about the project. So from a perspective understanding the impacts, potential impacts, traffic control, bike detours, that was all yet to be determined. For all the city of Middleton and Dane County knew, perhaps MG&E had infrastructure that could be gapped or taken away or put out of service while they built the bridge and then put back. Certainly not the case. It's not anything that we can gap and come back and put back in place in order to maintain adequate service to the area. So there was just too much unknown at that point. And I'm not, I know Luke is here from Public Works. I'm not trying to speak for him, but I would imagine that there was just not enough known at that time with respect to the private utilities and what would need to happen in order to share with you that there would be a closure or even a potential closure that would happen this fall. For all they know, maybe we had minor adjustment work and that we could do it in the spring ahead of their project and keep it really compact. But once we dove into the project and understood the scale of what was happening, it became very obvious that what MG&E, Gas and Electric, and the telecoms needed to do was quite significant. And so we spent a lot of time trying to figure out the way to be the least disruptive. And that's kind of where we're at now. Once we got a well-developed plan that we could share and how that impacted traffic, how that impacted bike routes, pedestrian routes, is when the city of Middleton decided to engage and share with you. Up to that point, it was all still in development. It was all still in discussion. So apologize for you not knowing about this sooner, but this is something that's taken a long time to get where we're at with a plan that works for everything. But again, in short, I don't think they knew at that time last fall to tell you that there could be a potential closure impact to the bikes and pedestrians. And furthermore, I guess, Roger, you can chime in here too, but the impacts to buses and pedestrians are not going to be near as significant as maybe everyone's thinking. Roger, do you want to just chime in with our conversations with Metro and our night closures to minimize disruption, maintaining sidewalk on at least one side, and bus stops as well? We're not sending kids down to Allen or Donna. So I'll turn it over to Roger. He knows a little bit more about that detail.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Matt. Yeah. So to kind of piggyback on what Matt was saying there, we learned about the project last fall, late last fall, and there was a lot of iterations with how to route around the bridge project there. So MG&E has significant utility infrastructure that crosses the Pheasant Branch Creek there at the bridge. And due to the bridge impacts and the way that they need to construct that bridge, we had approached the city of Middleton to get an easement in the Pheasant Branch Conservancy. And when we go into like a public park area similar to that, it takes a lot of time and effort to walk that through the city of Middleton. And so, yeah, as Matt mentioned, the significant amount of meetings that we've had with City of Middleton, Dane County, a lot of other folks there. And for us to even figure out how to cross that creek was very, very challenging. It's a very, very, I would say not a very big creek, but it's also, it's got some depth to it too. And to cross it, we had to figure out how to either do an open trench or do some sort of directional drill underneath that. And that took a lot of different conversations with our group there. So to Matt's point there, yeah, we learned about the project last year. We didn't know all the impacts it would be, not only to the traffic on Century Avenue, but also the amount of bike paths, and then what it would take to detour people around our construction efforts and everything. So yeah, so that's maybe why it wasn't really broadcasted out to the world about how we're going to do this and then what impacts it would be here, because we've been moving at lightning speed as fast as we can. And I think we've been able to iron out our traffic control in the last month or so. And so what you're seeing right now is basically a culmination of about 9 months of a lot of work on behalf of our entire team at MG&E, as well as our consultants there. In this case here, we hired Strand to do our traffic control of that. As far as, addressing, maybe I'll address the Amherst Road you had mentioned there. There is no pedestrian crossing at Amherst there. And so we do have some work at Amherst, both gas, a little bit of minor gas, a little bit more on the electric side. But ultimately, Amherst will be open for pedestrians to walk through at basically every single stage of the project there. No major impacts that we'll be doing with MG&E's work here in combination with the joint trench at Amherst there. So there is no pedestrian crossing there. So pedestrians will have to cross either at Branch Street or at Allen Boulevard there to get over to Amherst, which is still the case currently, even before our construction there. So yeah, hopefully that addresses your concerns there. As far as school bus routes and everything like that, yeah, we will be at different points in our operations there. We have like 8 different staging of traffic control through here. The most significant traffic control stage will be when we close down the 2 westbound lanes on Century Avenue. And when we do that, there will be a one-way, or not a one-way, there'll be a single lane going both eastbound and westbound, and everybody will be shifted over to the south side of Century Avenue. But during that time, their traffic will be always maintained. And so bus routes at that point will always be maintained. I think what maybe where some of the confusion came out was when we do have a very, very small stage coming up where there might be some nighttime closures on Century Avenue. And that was when we have to cross Century Avenue. And that would be a major impact there. So we worked out with the city of Milton and also Dane County to do a nighttime closure. And that would be the only time that we were really only affect buses going down Century Avenue is during that nighttime closure. And that would be for a very, very small duration there. We're thinking it's going to be done one day, but we're going to plan for 3 days just to be kind of cautious with our timelines and everything. So the nighttime closure, we will be routing buses around the Branch Street intersection, basically. But that's only going to be from 9 p.m. at night until basically 5 o'clock in the morning. And then during the day, traffic will be opened back up on Century Avenue during the day around that nighttime closure there. So again, I think that was maybe it wasn't conveyed very well to that group of people there about the bus routes and in the detours of the buses and stuff. So the bus route detour is only going to happen during a nighttime closure. Other than that, during the construction operations of our utilities, There will be traffic that will be able to utilize Century Avenue during the day at all times. Granted, it will be impactful because we will be necking down Century Avenue with our work efforts there. So there will be some inconvenience there, especially during the rush hours in the morning and evenings. That will be impactful. Obviously, there's a lot of people that need to come through that corridor. But unfortunately, due to the construction operations, we're very, very limited where we can go with our utilities, and so that's why we're shutting down those westbound lanes there for a good portion of well, yeah, maybe I should say that, not maybe a good portion, but for a certain point of our construction efforts there. Um, and let me just see if I got all your comments there addressed. Um,
I just wanted to add something to you, Roger. The as far as sidewalk access, there will be a sidewalk open on both sides. Bus locations will be maintained throughout construction. If a bus needs to move, if I'm sorry, a bus pickup location needs to be moved, we've got plans on how to build that into the lane safely and barricade it off so that if people have an area to stand and wait for the bus. They are not just standing out in the road with exposure to traffic. So again, buses will be maintained, sidewalk we would be maintained, and we are not asking people to go down to Allen or to Donna to wait or to pick up buses. I see Mark, you have your hand up.
Yeah. So I think I'm hearing generally very good news, but I wanted to make sure that what you just said can be distilled into a very quick question or quick response. We've been talking about the plan with utility relocations, but I've also heard you talk about construction next summer, right?
Yep.
And I had, until today, thought that the entire bridge would be out and there'd be no way for pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists. At some point, it would be completely blocked. But
That will be the case next year
so okay, so
for a
that
portion of
remains the
time. And I
case.
would point to Luke and
Okay.
Strand
All
to give
right.
you the
So I
timeline.
just wanted to make sure we weren't conflating, because I didn't know how that would be possible to keep during construction next year, how it would be possible to keep any part of that accessible.
Yep.
But I just want to clarify that what you were saying was limited to the utility work this fall.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, now I'm back to my disappointment. So,
Yeah, so
Unfortunately, we could not line this up where this could
right.
be done while the bridge was out at the same time.
And I understand that, but I appreciate the measures you're going to here and that Strand got involved with the traffic control. This is the best traffic control attempt at traffic control that I've seen on a city project, and I think um, the questions that Kirsten and others probably have, I think are excellent. But I appreciate that there's been this effort to think about this stuff ahead of time and talking with us about it. So
Yeah.
I'll pause for now.
Kirsten, you had another question?
Yeah, regarding Amherst, one of the images that you have, one of the maps, I don't know which one, I think maybe the third or fourth down, did show that sidewalk on both sides would be closed, but the multi-use path going through the woods would be open. That's the one that I was mostly concerned regarding the Amherst, because if sidewalk on both sides are closed, people have no way to get to the Branch Street crossing safely, which would mean they would have to go all the way down to Allen and then backtrack. And we all know, especially youth, but also adults, that they're not going to do that. So I don't, yep, there we go. So with that, I think that a temporary safe crossing at Amherst is going to have to go in. That's the one that I was mostly concerned about.
Maybe I can help address that too. So a couple things there. So this plan that is showing up right now on the screen, this is kind of worst case scenario there. So the major impacts are going to be on the north side of Century Avenue. The south end there where it does show the closure. So you're correct. This does show sidewalk closures on both sides, but the duration of the south closure there will be it's going to be very, very minimal. And so instead of trying to show like all the different phasing within the phase, we could show like 20 different phases, which would get really complicated in such a plan there. And so this particular page here, what you see in the south end there, that closure would be very, very temporary. And in fact, it may never even happen at all. But as far as putting a sidewalk across Amherst there, that would take a lot of effort in conjunction with the city of Middleton. I don't think we can safely, I guess, if I put my engineering hat on there, I don't know if that's going to be able to be accommodative for our project or any of the phasing for Century Avenue. I think that would take a lot of thought with the city of Milton, Dane County, and everybody to try to get a crossing there because it would have to be signaled. It would have to, in all those different efforts there too. But we can definitely accommodate people so that they can get around safely, obviously. But what you see in the south side there, that won't be a long-term closure. If anything, it might be very, very temporary, very, very short-term during some of the days. What you see on the north side there, that closure will be probably more of a permanent status for a good 3 to 4 weeks. But on the south side, that'd be very, very temporary. That we would have to close that down, and that's only because we have a little bit of work to do for some gas service crossings to get in the sidewalk area there.
So I guess
This
just hopping in from the city side here, I mean, we do have that detour around the north side, right? So I guess I'm struggling to see what that crossing at Amherst would gain us. I'm any sort of crossing where it's a temporary RFB like that, I would be hesitant for safety reasons. People are not going to be looking for it. It's not, people aren't used to it. I'm not a traffic engineer. I would defer to the experts on that, but I guess I was just curious where that question was coming from.
It came
so
from the community down there, Spring Hill, all the apartments. There's a large amount of youth in that neighborhood, and they use that corridor frequently. And I see them even now crossing at Amherst. And I can just see that becoming even more frequent with the sidewalk closures on both the north and the south side. I use this corridor probably 4 times a day. And often in the afternoons, I'm seeing kids dart across that anyway. And with the closures and not being able to access the Branch Street light, it's just a real worry for me because this is a really dangerous corridor on a regular day. So that's why I had brought it up.
this is Tad. I'm gonna pile on there. I have seen there's one particular little old lady who walks up and down Century Avenue. She moves maybe 1 mile an hour. She leans on her shopping cart. I have seen her cross Century right around there. It was on a Sunday, it was low traffic, but I have seen her do that in preference to any of the marked sidewalks. Sorry, any of the marked crosswalks. This is one of those things where people will try and cross there, even with the neck down. And I'm honestly less concerned about it under normal conditions than about under the neck down when with the cars potentially closer together. I think that's going to cause more issues. So I think that's why ideally, yes, we would have a temporary beacon there and maybe uh, it, granted that's complicated, but like that would be the best case scenario. I wanted to also chime in about uh I understand I understand that it could have produced more drawings, but frankly, we're not civil engineers. So it would have been very helpful. I don't see on this phase 3 on that south side, I don't see any information about the timing, the duration. There's nothing suggesting that. Like Kirsten, I looked at that and said, "Oh, that side of the sidewalk is going to be completely blocked off for 3 to 4 weeks." That's where my bus stop is. Where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? So more drawings. I know. I'm a programmer. I have to do that kind of stuff too. But we need to communicate what we know to people who are coming at it from a different angle. So that would have been appreciated. John.
I was just so I'm on. Okay, good. So I'm with Strand. It's a little confusing. There's a lot of Strand team people involved. So my involvement, just so if you have questions later, I was working with the city for the sewer and water main relocation. I'm also not a traffic engineer. We did have different people at Strand put that together. That is not my role in this team. I'm the involved with the water main and the sanitary sewer for Middleton relocation. So this question might be coming in a little bit, not knowing some of the back history um, for Matt and Roger on this outside closure. Roger, it sounds like, is that just going to be? You said you're being cautious for. I'm thinking of these just service crossovers. Then, when you have basically retired the old main and you're hooking up services to the new main to those residents on the south side of the street there.
Yeah, correct, John. I think, when we have to directionally drill underneath the road to get to the other side to serve a couple of those customers on the south side of Century, there might be just a temporary closure to allow us to, again, maybe just to block it off there. But I don't even, again, we're trying to plan for worst case sometimes.
Right.
And so again, I understand the concerns with trying to, show all the different phasing that we have. But there is some flexibility there. There's too many iterations with all these plans here to show everything. And again, I think that just shows, it's more confusion for people than it is helpful. So I understand the concern, but at the same time, too, there is some flexibility with it. And granted, to your point, we could have noted it on this plan that it is going to be a temporary closure, to your point, and we can go back and add that note there. But yeah, to your point there, John, yeah, that's just, for some gas
Hooking up
services,
at the property
yeah,
line. Is there a
yeah.
way then that for this group's purposes, I mean, I know sometimes in critical locations, and if it's not, this is just me throwing it out there, but you have almost, getting temp basically sidewalk down with it just being mats or some way to have an ADA compliant. I mean, you see them downtown sometimes just to, instead of closing that south side. I don't know if that's an option to maybe then say we don't think we're going to have to truly close it, and that you could be able to get people through. And I'm thinking every day you're probably getting the stuff relatively buttoned up, since, like you said, these are just daily activities. So maybe, if it's more of a spot where they're just kind of, just putting a few of those temporary access mats down to kind of connect them to the sidewalk, get around your work zone on the backside. I don't know if that's feasible, but maybe that could be something too to look at, instead of, a crossing there with a temporary, um, beacon there. Maybe this is easier, cheaper, more effective, not putting a new beacon, like Luke said, which those get challenging sometimes because if people aren't looking for them, um, they they sometimes are a little hairy from my understanding. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I mean, I've seen that before. I don't know if that's an option with the limited space that you guys might have there. So
Yeah, I think, John, like you were saying there, when we do work in the south end there, it might be just a really short-term closure just to not allow people to get through, just so we can do some work, and then we're going to throw a mat down or, that kind of stuff there to open it back up. So it's going to be a really, really short-term duration there. As far as putting a crossing there at Amherst, that's going to be a City of Middleton question that we cannot abide by. There is currently no sidewalk crossing there right now. If the City of Middleton allows it, I guess we can put it to the plan there, but that's not an MG&E or design thing that we can add. If like I said, the City of Middleton or Dane County for that matter, if they are going to allow us to put some sort of sidewalk crossing there, we can add that, but that will impact traffic. And so I think right now, the traffic impacts with signals and everything are at Branch Street and at Allen Boulevard. If we start putting a sidewalk crossing there at Amherst, it might need to be signaled, and that's going to really impact how traffic flows down Century Avenue there. So I'm just throwing it out there. That is kind of like a city of Middleton question, more than anything like that there.
Hey, Roger, I guess just for some clarity, how many services do we have to shoot across to the south side there in between Amherst and Branch? Is it two or three that we're shooting
Yeah,
across?
it's like two or three. I don't have the exact number in front of
Okay.
Matt, but
And
yeah.
again, we may or may not need to be in the sidewalk. And again, we may or may not disrupt the southern sidewalk at all. And I think that's what we're trying to make clear is, again, I hope everyone sees that we're, as Roger mentioned, we're planning for the worst, and hoping for the best. That sidewalk may be open the entire time. It may need to be closed for 4 hours, midday while we do a service tie-in, and then we can temp restore it and it's open again. So I just want to be clear that when we talk about short durations and we talk about what actually we need to get done there, it is critical work. We have to tie these services back in. With the joint trench on the north side, I can't keep the north side open, and I do need to get these services hooked back up on the south side. So if we can stay out of the sidewalk and not disrupt that and keep it open, we absolutely will. If we cannot, we would shut it as quickly and as safely as possible, get it done, and then reopen it. And there is a access attempt sidewalk just to the west of Amherst going to the north and coming back over to Branch. So there is a route that works that is not much longer for the situation where there is no north and south sidewalk. So we have done our due diligence here to think this through. And again, this could all be for nothing. We may not need to close the south sidewalk at all. So we're just trying to plan for the worst and, hope for the best. But we might be talking about something that doesn't even happen.
Kirsten.
Sorry, Kirsten. Brad.
Kirsten first and then Brad.
Kirsten, yeah.
Oh, thank you. And I do appreciate all of the thought that's been put into this. I would ask, though, that you refrain from saying things like there could be traffic congestion, more traffic congestion. I mean, the lives of vulnerable users should be placed before the importance of the lives of vulnerable users should be placed before forcing people to wait in their cars a little bit longer. That verbiage that you used is not is not complete streets or is not safe. And I'm guessing this would be county and not city. But remember that University Avenue used it at the culvert for months on and off during all of the closures. And I think that we need to somewhat plan for the worst case scenario. What if it ends up being closed for 3 weeks? Hopefully it isn't. And I really appreciate all of your thought. But I think that for projects like this, we need to have something in our back pocket.
Yeah, I think that's something that. Or sorry, go ahead, Brad.
I was just gonna. It's fine. I was just gonna follow up with Kirsten. Yes. You guys, this is great work. And you guys keep saying it could be temporary. It may not happen. But as our committee, we're here to discuss what to do when it happens. We hope it doesn't happen. But Amherst is a very dangerous crossing. People are crossing there all the time. You're condensing the traffic down. Worst case, you have to close that for 3 to 4 weeks because something unexpected happens. I know you're saying temporary, and I believe that, and I hope for that. But what if it's not? So that's why we're here. to look at this and identify issues, not to say, oh, it's going to be temporary, so we don't need to talk about it.
And I certainly didn't mean to give you that impression, Brad. I hope you don't.
Yeah.
I hope that's not the impression that you're getting, is that I'm brushing it off and saying, we may not even need to do it. It might be temporary. You're absolutely right. It takes, in any instance, whether there's construction going on or not, it takes one person to be irresponsible and not see a pedestrian and hurt somebody, whether there's construction going on or not. So I'm not trying to minimize that by any means. And we appreciate the feedback. That's why we're here listening and trying to work through this and go through this with you guys. So I guess, Roger, we can talk to Middleton and Dane County if that's something that they want to explore. It's certainly not anything that is we don't have authority to do that. And it's certainly not our decision. So Dane County and the city of Middleton can look at if that's something they want to explore. And we're happy to do that. And Luke is on the call. So we could have further discussion about that.
I would
John?
just like to chime in real quick with, in the event that does close, just as I'm looking at this, one idea of additional signage that might be helpful that wouldn't really change much of the plans themselves is, trying to route as many people to do this type of detour around that south side closure. Considering that a lot of the apartments are down here anyways, if there's just more signage so they don't go all the way up here, then get frustrated by it and then, have to backtrack or whatnot. That could be one small improvement I would see on the plans that would be pretty easy to implement, I assume.
Yeah, it's a great point, Scott. Thank you. John, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce too, just to make sure, that, and it's probably understood, but just again, you do say, and I could understand from, construction, seeing this go, and that I do understand, like what you said is you don't know, and you very well could make these connections happen, really quickly and not impact the sidewalk. But I do also understand the committee, is point of, well, we need some certainty, and you should have something in your back pocket, and definitely warranted and agree. I just did want to stress that what you do show, and I know people are crossing, and they're probably not a little less inclined to go the length of this detour. But if you do need to do a closure, and if there are 2 times where it's 4 hours here that you do it, you get it buttoned up in the end of the day. Because what I'm is, and that's why I asked earlier, if that's the only reason the south side's shown as closure, and there's only 2 to 3 service connections, those usually, and I know with construction, you do, like everybody here said, there are uncertainties, and if something does come up, it could take longer. But the plan would be, if one of those does require a 4 or 6 or closure, that you would have to completely set up this detour, that the sidewalk would be marked with signs closing in, and whether it's showing how it is here for the 4 hours that they can't get through, or if we do what was suggested by Scott and maybe change it to go down Amherst and over Pheasant Lane, and up Branch Street that way, it would still be signed. There should still be a designated spot. Closure happens that we're saying, please go this way for these 4 hours, 8 hours, or worst case 3 weeks, which again, I hope doesn't happen from the nature of the work you're doing. But I just, did want to reiterate that to the group, that I don't think you guys are at all proposing like, oh gosh, we got to this point and we did need to, take it. So good luck, figure it out. Like, there will be the signage, the closures, the arrow boards, the detour routes. Like, there will be a way to get from point A to B. It's just like, as people in this committee brought up, it's people don't want to necessarily go twice as long to get to the same point, but it will be marked. So.
I'm not sure if this is a question for Scott or Daphne, proxy via Scott, or somebody on the Strand team. The bus stop move note keeps saying refer to traffic sheets. Do we have those traffic sheets that we could look at? I, in general, would like to see partly I'm a bus user. I'm bus dependent. Like I need to know that, and it needs to show up here. But in general, when knowing about the pedestrian and bike flow, I would also like to know about the automobile and bus flow. They can't really be, as much as our title is only ped bike and transit, they can't really be separated. Um, so I kind of, if we don't have those, that's fine for now.
Yep,
But that's
they were in that PDF that I sent. The traffic plans were also in there as well.
okay. So that sounds like it was on our side then. Um, so that's a future note. I do like the talk about planning for the worst case. I like when people ask me how fast I can program something to say the worst possible case. I do agree that's the best way to do it. And that way it's better. On that note, jumping all the way back to Kirsten's note about informed, uh, I understand you guys didn't know this. This is, I think, more on our side. It would have been nice for that same kind of thing to suggest, well, we might need to do work this fall. Uh, especially for us, this feels this feels a little bit more last minute than it necessarily is for drivers. And we have less options about what to. As a car-free person, especially as an everyday vulnerable user, I don't have options the way car drivers have. As a person who literally lives right where this work is going to be happening, you said there's going to be a crane. That's exciting. There's going to be a crane right out, literally right out my window. These are things I would like to hear in advance so I know what to do about them. And I appreciate all pulling all this information together is difficult, but like we are used to getting the short end of the stick in many ways, and we just want to remind you that that has been the case and often continues to be the case, not deliberately, but just because of past performance. That got a little ranty. Do we have any other immediate comments?
All right, I'll write up a summary of the comments that we had at this meeting then and send it on to the project team, and they can take that under advisement.
Mark.
It looks like Mark has a question.
Yeah, so what's the earliest then that work will start? I missed that if you said it.
MGE is planning to begin with the telecoms in early September, end of August, early September.
Okay.
And that would be essentially starting with a directional drill under Pheasant Branch Creek
Okay.
is the first crucial time critical work that needs to happen in order to basically head east and head south to tie everything in.
Okay. Thank you. That helps because it just would be good to just be able to let people know when they can expect seeing these signs to go up.
Brad.
I guess a question for the ped bike transit is it, obviously we don't want to, we had a discussion about this in our last monthly meeting. I like the idea of advanced signage and letting people know it's coming, but I also know that shutting something down when there's no activity is really annoying, right? That happens to all of us. You drive by construction and there's barricades and there's new traffic and there's closures, but nothing's happening, right? There's no construction activity. So I guess a question to the committee is, putting signage up, making people aware, but maybe not closing it yet, giving people as much notice as possible that it's coming. But not necessarily closing it down 2 weeks in advance and then there not being any activity, right? And then people losing 2 additional weeks of being able to take their normal route when there's no activity. But again, it's not a good idea for me to wait till the night before to shut it down without any communication to the community and the users, and they show up and, oh, now I can't go this way. So what are thoughts on from the committee on that?
I'm really for advance warning. I mean, the kids walk around all summer, so informing them before it happens would be even better.
Sure.
Uh, Brad, just checking since we jumped in over you.
I agree with the advanced signage. I just wanted to back up and say we really did only comment on one of these maps. This we do appreciate this work. A lot of it's very good. A lot of this is very thorough. I didn't want anyone to feel like we're saying the work wasn't done because this is all great. I think it was just that one map that we had real issues with Amherst, and maybe some timing. So I just wanted to reiterate that we really appreciate this work that you guys did. So
And we really
Yes,
appreciate that, Brad. I know this has been a great discussion, and again, these are the types of conversations that make all of this stuff better. And we learn from, and we can do better as we move forward. Kirsten?
I was, yeah,
I agree with Brad Brickle. Thank you so much for putting all this together. And it is very well detailed. Scott, can we make sure that there are public posts on the city page, on social media, kind of informing people of what to expect? And then can we have some signs, if not, we don't need to have the blockades up first, but just some signs, especially at the Branch Street Century corridor, just explaining what work is going to happen and the timeline.
Yep. I can coordinate with our comms director, and I presume Luke would have the most up-to-date information on the scheduling of things to make sure that, different posts and communications are timed appropriately.
And
We
you've
had
had
also briefly discussed placement of some signage on the maps along the bike routes, of notification of sort of changes coming. As people ride by those boards, seeing some bright signage saying that, hey, the route is changing in the near future, we thought would be beneficial as well. Something that we had talked about in our last meeting. Mark?
And I would add that the city has reader boards that could be used. So having one, on the approach to Branch Street from the east and maybe at the top of the hill from the west, just letting people know utility work will be starting and ongoing this fall. So to expect some delays or some, just to expect utility work.
Yeah, that will be part of our traffic control plan as well.
The reader board specifically?
Yep, is
Okay.
giving advance
Yeah.
notice that there's
And
there reader boards. We can talk to the city of Middleton about that. Signage, absolutely.
right.
Road construction ahead and stuff like that. Yes.
When the reader boards are, if they are used and when they are set out, they shouldn't be blocked. They should not block the sidewalks either. So thank you. And since nobody else is talking, I'll just ask a quick question. I know we're focused on the utility work here, but do we know roughly when we're aiming for next spring, or is it depending on when we get the contractor lined up and what their schedule is?
So they do still have to bid it. The public utility work, the water and sewer, has the option of sort of joining with us and getting it done in the fall or starting in the spring with the bridge project. I know that project was just bid. There is a low bidder, but it has not been awarded. We've talked to that contractor and we've sort of started some coordination. We have asked them if they would potentially want to use our drilling contractor, and slide them in with our construction operation to get that out of the way. Those conversations are underway, but there is language in their contract, and I'm sure John's going to echo me here that they do have the option whether they want to work in the fall or if they'd like to start in the spring. How early in the spring, I do not know. I don't believe they can touch demoing the bridge until June because of restrictions with respect to the creek and the environmental concerns. But they could start prep work before that. John, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna, yep, I'll add. And so, like you said, there's kind of a three different projects, if you will, going on. So what we're talking about right now is the relocation of the private utilities, which is, your gas, your electric, your fiber. There's also City of Middleton public utilities, which is what Matt was referencing about the contractor. Being apparent low bidder. They actually were awarded earlier this week by the city. So the contractor had been selected to do the water and sewer work, which follows a similar path of crossing Pheasant Branch Creek, but does not have the same impacts to the area like we see right here between Branch and Amherst. It's a little bit of a tighter work zone by the nature of just that work and where we have the ability to connect because that's a public let. So the work we're talking about now, there's a little more flexibility to be a little more deliberate with scheduling because MG&E has the ability to just work with a contractor. The city utility project, because of the size of it, had to be publicly let in order for it to be more attractive to a contractor to actually um, want to bid it and build it, because it truly is a challenging and not a super glam project in the sense of it has challenges from a constructability, and we were trying to leave it as open as we could to a publicly let project. So a low bidder was selected, which was good because if nobody was selected, it kind of throws a pickle at getting the water and sewer out of the way for the bridge if there's nobody there to get the water and sewer out of the way, because that's not part of the project that you guys had the meeting for last year. The public utility a little bit was reacting to the finalized bridge plans because until they got their kind of ducks all in a row, understand their impacts, like Matt was saying with the private utilities, same thing with the public utilities, water and sewer. What does that actually impact? Uh, we have basically a window of time for the contractor to either go with MG&E. It sounds like that's not their plan. They kind of want to start in the spring, that original time frame. Again, this is what they have not set their construction schedule yet. If something changes and we hear it, will obviously inform this group, but they have the flexibility to set the schedule to be a little more attractive. Like I said, they have discussed wanting to just do it right before this final bridge demo project that will close this whole area. They'll probably come in. They're planning to come in right before that and do that work. So the last I heard from them, they're thinking about an April, even May of next year. And then, like Matt said, the actual Dane County project, the bridge project, is scheduled and very rigidly scheduled to occur in June. And that one still has to let to and get a contractor under contract. So that one's not even technically contracted yet, but its schedule is very firm with a mid-June start date for closing this bridge. And then our contract has milestones in that closure to do any of the street crossings during some closure periods for that project. I hope that helps answer it a little bit. There's a lot of stakeholders involved and it's hard to keep your head straight. We will inform when we know more. And we can definitely have another attendance at one of these meetings if they are going to go in spring and there's some lighter closures that happen kind of right in the front of that bigger project. And if
And just
it's in the
to throw
fall,
another,
we'll piggyback on you. I was just going to say, if it happens in the fall, a lot of what you see in the submittal is just, we'll kind of do it at the same time. We just don't know exactly the contractor's schedule yet.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Yep, no, I appreciate that, John. Appreciate the additional info. And then, just not to make things even more complicated, but then we've also been meeting. A designer was selected. Obviously, you guys were at the Conservancy Lands Committee meeting as well. the trailhead will also sort of be tacked on and into the bridge construction timeline at some point as well. So, very active area starting this fall. But I know hopefully everyone um, is looking at the finish line. I know it'll take a while to get there, but essentially a new bridge, all new infrastructure through the corridor, gas, electric, telecoms, bike underpass, bike lanes, a new bike bridge over the Pheasant Branch Creek, a new trailhead with parking and bike parking. So, at the end of all of this, a tremendous, tremendous win for the community. It's just going to take a little time to get there.
And then John, you said this hard start time of mid-June of next year. What's the timeline then, to Kirsten's point earlier, for the bridge itself, for the road closure?
I do know the close, the ending date. Our
Yeah.
team was very separate from that. That was
Okay.
kind of a different group. I know it's a mid-June start, and maybe Luke knows the end date. I'm not sure what the limit is. It's definitely
Offhand,
through
I
the
don't
fall.
have, yeah, so offhand, I don't have an exact date for all that right here. But it is into the fall. So it'd be 3, 4 months, I think is what I recall.
With no pedestrian or bike access or transit access or motor vehicle access during that entire time, mid-June until early fall.
No, I believe the bridge, and John, if you remember this and I don't, I think the bridge is only 2 months that the bridge will be out. And then there's other work on the roadway and intersection where, there'll be lane closures and whatnot. But I think that there is access through.
Yeah, there's several phases, and not all that duration is a complete closure. Um, from what I remember
Okay.
of that project as well.
Yeah, from what I remember, there's so much daily use in traffic on Century. There is high level of motivation to get that bridge removed and replaced as quickly as possible. So
And just so the
the
committee
length
knows,
of closure for that bridge is not near the length of the entire project.
yeah, I was just going to say, just so the committee knows, I asked um, in June if it was possible to put in a temporary pedestrian bridge um, where the new trailhead would be. I asked if that would be possible to maintain, at least for the pedestrian and bicycle, have a detour basically for pedestrians and bicyclists, because it's harder to detour when you don't have a car. And I was told that that was not going to be feasible. So anyway, I just wanted to let the group know that that was something. I know there was some interest in doing that, and that just sounds like that's not possible. I wish someone could just donate a temporary pedestrian bridge and place it.
All right, it seems like that's all the comments from the committee on this topic. Should we move on to the next agenda item?
I think that's what it sounds like. Yep.
Thanks to all the consultants for being here.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, we appreciate the feedback.
Thank you.
All right. The public comment policy.
Uh, for a bit of background on this one, this is a topic that the Common Council discussed and wanted to get feedback from all of the committees on, generally how public comments are handled during committee meetings. Trying to make consistent standards across all the committees so that when people show up, they know what to expect, and that it's incorporated the different um, intricacies of how different committees operate. So that's the background for this, and just more of a providing feedback that we'll summarize and we'll get sent over to L&O as they are drafting up our version of public comment policy.
Yes. Brad, real quick, do you have a question? Or
I wanted to start this off with a question that might impact the entire conversation. So that's why I wanted to
okay,
jump in.
that sounds good.
I just wanted to know, first off, if we actually intend to allow public comment on things that are not on the agenda at committee meetings. Because committee members can't do that. So is the intention to let the public do that?
I believe in McFarland example, and it's not our ordinance, so I'm not,
Right.
don't have it down pat, but if things are not germane, then they would not, you know, be allowed to, talk. The chair would have discretion to be able to stop things that aren't necessarily on the agenda itself. Different communities do it different ways. Some have public comment that's tied to specific agenda items. Others do a just general open public comment period at the very beginning of the meeting. Obviously, if somebody starts going off on a tangent, that can be hard to stop at times, but that would be the case with any public comment that happens, I guess, regardless.
Okay, just reading the McFarland, which is the only thing I had for reference, it sounded like the public could just show up, and as long as they were talking about, in our case, a pedestrian, transit, or bike issue, that they would be allowed to speak. And I'm not against it. It just sounds very unwieldy, and it would require a whole bunch of ordinance work, and I'm not sure we want to do that. But that was my question.
Yeah, yeah, I like that because I was actually gonna jump in at the very beginning, but I like that because I think the McFarland example is kind of confusing actually. From a general, so I'll start off by saying I'm not a fan of the idea of public comment at as a standing element of the Ped Bike and Transit Committee meeting. Very specific here. Um, so I have lots of reasons, and I think Brad kind of hit on one of those. Um, Let me jump to that one, and then I'll go back. I have lots of notes, guys. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, so this particular one, the fixed time given to comments, uh, with the general idea that it's not a Q&A period, again, going from the McFarland example, because that's what we have, is at odds with like what we do as a committee. As a committee, we have unlimited discussion because we need to sort through the details of these things. But if we have people uh talking about things that are not on our agenda and we are not allowed to address them in a Q&A kind of fashion, not only can we not only I mean we can basic what I'm trying to say is that the meeting content can kind of become derailed very quickly. And like they can have this long list of things that because of our other policies and the open meetings laws, we basically are required to ignore everything they just said, um, which is problematic. I think also the nature of the discussion, if we're gonna have it, it probably needs to be a Q&A. There needs to be times people suggest something and we should be able to say at the moment why this isn't maybe a great idea or why it is a great idea. Sorry, Keaton, I'm gonna be a while, but hold that thought. Um, okay, so I don't like I'm not a fan of the opt-in public comment period, just as a general thing. So it's only worthwhile for the most part if you dislike something. We don't get Unfortunately, we don't get people signing on just to say, love what you're doing. It is going to tend to continue. We already have lots of comment available. People can email us at any time. For things like the active transportation plan, we've had to have this extensive, and we should have this extensive comment period, but we've tended to get, because of the nature of that comment period, we've tended to get the same kind of voices that we usually hear. These voices are usually older than the community than the community on that. They're older than average because they have the time to attend meetings. Honestly, 5:30, I work at home, and 5:30 is still a very tight thing for a 9 to 5 schedule. People who are working in the evenings, they can't attend these meetings. We know this. People who opt in tend to be whiter than average. Middleton's demographics are changing rather quickly, actually. And so the second largest ethnic demographic group within the city right now is actually mixed race. This is definitely not something that was the case even just 10 years ago. They are wealthier than usual. They tend to be homeowners, which is another way of saying it. Homeowners only represent 46% of the city. Like, I'm a renter. We are the majority, and yet our voices don't get heard through this process. Um, and they tend to be car drivier than, for lack of a better term, than usual. These are people who live on cul-de-sacs at the backs of neighborhoods more often than they are uh, living next to highways. Um, uh, the other downside for us when we do that is that exact opposite. Not only do we tend to hear from those same people, we tend to forget that we need to go actually ask the kinds of people that we don't hear from a lot. And it's tempting for us to say all done, and not actually go ask the people that we need to ask, the people who can't come or won't come. Oh, a lot of people just, yes, the opt-in people often distrust the city, but many of the people who can't come definitely distrust the city. Um, we need to make time to actually deal with that. Okay. Blah blah blah. A little bit kind of personal. Have Our committee work specifically is a bit more technical than certain kinds of committees. And so as a result, and we're having to train ourselves. I'll point out, we're having to train ourselves on, we are not professional traffic engineers either, but we're having to learn how to sort of do that. We're having to learn how to do transportation planning in general. And then having a standardized comment period where people who are not doing that, are not volunteering their time to the city, can just come in, say whatever they want. And then again, we have to smile and say, well, thank you for your input. That's kind of demoralizing. To have volunteered, to have put in the effort to become an expert, to work with the staff, and real closely related to that, you guys are trained to that, and you have to deal with that. And I am just amazed at that every day. I know I'm enough to deal with. We would need training. We really would. Mark knows this. I have lost my cool in the past. It's hard. It's hard to stand there and deal with a fellow citizen basically suggesting that you are wrong, everything wrong with Middleton, and not lose your cool, right? So, and that can happen. Yes, most of the comments will probably be innocuous or fine, but as anybody who does service work knows, 999 comments can be polite and cheery, and it only takes one bad one to completely ruin your day and to completely derail things. Um, 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 uh, a lot of the stuff, ideally, because the Common Council already does have this standing public comments thing, ideally, if someone has a major concern, they would take it to there and then the council would send it to us. Especially if you're concerned about our decisions being rubber stamped by the council, then technically having that comment period over here, in theory, actually makes it easier to sneak stuff in, right? Because then somebody could maybe persuade us, we could go a certain way, and something that benefits one person alone in the city and costs the city $50,000 more suddenly gets passed and the common council doesn't look at it. So I like those kinds of political decisions. I very much want to be at the common council because they're the elected political body. I don't want to be just a negative Nelly. I actually do like increased public uh, feedback and integration. I just don't think that this method is the correct method. If you had asked me 10 years ago, I would have said, yeah. And then I actually was that person, and not having public comment meant I got to kind of look at myself. Um, so I think detail wise, again, in general, I'd say the status quo. Let the committees decide whether they want this or not. But you can absolutely have us post our standards at the beginnings of our agendas and on our web pages. That would be excellent. We're just kind of used to that. We don't have that, but actually posting that information so that people know it ahead of time, that's that's great. Committees, like, tooting our own horn here, committees should post their work plans on their web pages so that people can see the big things that they're working on. I tend to think that a lot of the issue is actually informational. We know how difficult it is to find stuff on the website, so we need to work a bit harder on actually getting the information out there. And then when people, and there will still be people who don't look that up, but then with that there, we can say, here's where our information is. And then I have one last big thing. Oh, my big crazy thing that I've been kind of trying, excuse me. And since it's feedback, it's finally more than just like Daphne and Luke hearing this. Ideally, the city would have a project page with every active, past, future project there. Um, it would be where staff worked on that project information, and it would have public visibility so that people can see what's going on. We have very, like, the ATP is a great example. We've been working on it for like 2 years now. The final public comment period is 6 months. There's a lot there's a lot of visibility, and yet in some ways it's not enough. Yeah, okay, I ran out of steam. Um, so that's me. Okay, Kate, yeah, Keaton.
Few things. First of all, um, to your point about the allowing public comment topics not on the agenda, um, I would be most definitively against allowing public comments not on the agenda. I do think that's worth like specifically calling out though, because Common Council, you can say whatever, and also some other committees have specifically advocated for allowing that, permitting comments on any topic, regardless of if it's on the agenda or not, under the rationale that they could introduce new topics, similar to like how flock cameras were introduced as a topic to city council via public comment off the agenda. Not saying that I agree with that. That's just the rationale that other committees have kind of gone with advocating for that. So if we disagree with that, which I tend to, because I do believe that just allowing kind of a free-for-all is in common council might be appropriate, but for a designated kind of working body like our committee, it might be a bit much. So we should specifically note down that and advocate against free-ranging comments. I did appreciate a lot of points you made there, Tad. I, though, do tend to err kind of on the opposite side of things and err on the side of incorporating public comment. Because the reality is, you made a very good point about wanting a lot of representation in these discussions and fielding a lot of point of views. But the reality is, we're not an elected body, aside from Mark. And I'm not really convinced of our true representation of the community, not to undermine our, very valid different backgrounds and contributions, but the reality is, like you said, the people who would attend to provide comment and everything are biased to a certain population. Well, even more so, the people who volunteer to do this monthly are biased to a certain population. Some might argue even more so, and yeah, I won't get into the details there, but so I think that I wouldn't be opposed to having a public comment period. I do think that it should be constrained, and I do think that there should be some discretion of the chair to moderate it, to police it, especially if you get into a situation where people are just taking up time and wasting time. I think that would be a good thing to just have as like a backstop of some sort of chair moderation. More generally, and I'm not sure if this is specifically addressable with a public comment policy or not, but one frustration that I've had with a lot of city meetings, city council meetings in particular, but more generally, is that we tend to promote basically certain individuals' ability to talk freely, even when they're not part of the committee properly. Like, for instance, we just had several non-committee members who talked for a very long time, which was good and collaborative, and I think we benefited from it. But inherent to having these individuals on is that they were able to express their views, they were able to steer the discussion and influence committee opinions in a way that a resident on Amherst who disagreed with their point of view might not be able to, or provide counterfactuals. Not to really point out, but Kirsten, during the last public works meeting and everything, I believe you tried to, like, at a point, to ask the chair if you could contribute later in the agenda and everything, but they specifically said no to that. And I'm not taking a stance on, if that was good or not, but I think having a public comment period at least helps allay some of that and gives people who might not have the proper credentials or a seat at the table as appointed by someone a bit more chance to interact and influence city decisions. But, okay, that was my spiel. Yeah.
Kirsten's next.
So I'm all for, and I really want community members to feel vested, have a voice. I think that we need to encourage that. If we're choosing to allow public comment, I do think it needs to be connected to an agenda item, and that we need to set something up to help steer people to the common council meetings for general comment. The best way that we can do this is through communication and education. I think that having on all of our agenda packets connected to the meeting, we can, and most of them now do say public comment is only allowed to agenda items, or, it should just be very clear to people. But then attached to that, we want to encourage people to participate and we need to have very direct, I guess, modes for them to be able to communicate and make comments. So whether we list them all, saying you can email any comments to this, or you can contact Daphne or Scott through their phone numbers. Letting people know how their voices can be heard is extremely important. And we need to have that posted in several different areas. I don't think that people know that they can participate in different ways. So having that on the city website, we can even post that on social media, not just for our committee, but for all committees, to help people feel like they're a part and they do have a voice.
Ben.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to add on to what Kirsten and Tad were saying. I liked what Tad was saying about representation and the small minority of people that actually contribute to the discussion, just of the availability aspect of that. And I really think Kirsten's idea is important of having the showing all sorts of groups in the community that they have the ability to participate. And I think there needs to, whether or not a public comment period is implemented, there needs to, all sorts of groups in the community need to understand that they have the ability and they need to be encouraged and given the opportunity to speak out about issues that matter to them. Um, and so I think that just needs to be obviously, I know that our committee doesn't have the power to do all of that, but I think that just needs to be a goal going forward to get a wider variety of people to uh, share their views and actively seek that out, if that makes sense.
Brad.
I just had to say I have to, with apologies, I have to jump. I will be gone most of a week without driving, so I won't be able to contribute much to that anyway. Um, so I will see you guys next time.
All right. Happy trails. Let me count real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, we are still good. Okay. Um, as a way of maybe doing a mic check, Steven, do you have anything? You are muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Awesome.
Success. Okay. Do I have anything to add? No.
All right. Mark, do you have anything to add?
Oh, I wanted to listen to what all of you had to say first. I have opinions on this, but I wanted to be guided by, I wanted the committee to express them. But since everyone's had a chance, I'll share my view. I also share the concern of that I wouldn't want people to speak on any item on the agenda. So I'm sorry that they can speak to items that are not on the agenda. I don't think that should be allowed. If people have concerns, they can raise them with their elected officials, with city staff outside of a meeting, and then that can determine, working with the chair, whether something needs to be scheduled for an agenda. So I don't think a free-for-all public comment period at committee meetings is appropriate. As someone said, the council is there for that purpose. In terms of speaking under for items on the agenda, I think that is helpful to get people's perspective. One way to handle it would be the chair could recognize people, but then if you recognize one, you have to recognize all who want to speak on a topic. And so just having the public comment period limited to items on the agenda with one period at the beginning to speak, not maybe on every item, but you can just say public comment at the beginning for items on the agenda, and that way you don't have an opportunity at every agenda item. So that would be another way to look at it. Those are my main points. Sorry, I'm a little out of breath because I'm on a walk.
All right, I think that's everybody on the committee, so I can summarize those comments and get them forwarded along. Thank you all so much.
I appreciate that all the committees are being asked. That was something the council wanted to do, is give you all the opportunity to weigh in, and then License and Ordinance Committee will be updating the rules and our ordinances accordingly.
All right. Item number 3, week without driving. Planning.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I didn't know if Scott was going to say something first, but then I wanted to be recognized after that. Please.
Oh. I don't have anything on this particularly. Daphne just wanted to make sure that there's an opportunity for the committee to discuss plans for that week.
Yeah, so I have been attending the monthly Zoom meetings, and now they're being held bi-weekly with a regional group that has representatives from different communities. Madison, Sun Prairie, Fitchburg have been actively participating. AARP, someone from UW, Metro Transit. And so we actually just had a meeting today, and just to discuss coordinating resolutions and proclamations between the different communities, as well as a calendar of events. I have arranged with the Senior Center director, well, the program director, to have a Metro Transit outing from the Senior Center. I think it's on Monday, October 5th, I think we settled on. And so this is going to be an opportunity for seniors and anybody who wants to join, but to meet at the Senior Center or at Barriques, and then take the bus. And Metro Transit representatives and people from the Metropolitan Planning Organization will be present, so that to try and encourage people to become more comfortable with how to take the bus. So that's one activity that we're planning, and then doing a resolution for the council, which is something we've done in previous years. We'll do that again as well. So just want to report on those activities that I've been involved with. Any other ideas would be very welcome.
Does that count as the bus ride along?
Does that count as the bus? Or are you referring?
I'm going to take that as a no.
What are you? Are you referring to something on the agenda?
So yeah, there's a grid of things, and one of them says bus ride along, but it's not assigned to anybody. I was just curious. Kirsten. Oh wait, sorry.
No, I don't know what that item is on the on this list.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Okay, Kirsten. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm still working out the time for the concert at Stonehorse Green. Cross Family Band did say that they were coming, and they're doing it for free for us, which is amazing because they packed the Burr Oak standing room only.
Nice.
Like a month ago. They are donating their time. They're very generous, and they also the family runs a multi-generational assisted living house in Madison called Hope and Future. So that's why I thought they would be extremely appropriate, because they all work with people who are vulnerable users and cannot drive. And I did ask Karin, the mom of the kids and the wife of the person who runs the band, if she could chat a little bit prior to the concert and talk about vulnerable users and why we need to really think about them. And just she's very good at tapping into empathy and encouraging people to think beyond themselves, the us versus, or the we versus me. Kathleen is, and I'll have Scott, you and Daphne can talk to me about this, but I'm guessing like 6:30 to 8 for that concert, or 6 to 7:30 for the concert. That's what I'm kind of aiming for. And I can also chat with them to find out which they prefer. Also, Kathleen, the director for the Center for Visually Impaired or Council for Visually Impaired and Blind, Daphne and I will be meeting with her at Stonehorse Green, we're going to have a designated area that is very accessible for visually impaired. I'd like to have a lot of encouragement for people to walk, roll, or bus to the concert. So when we do advertise for that, we definitely want to push that. And then I'd also like Kathleen to say a few words. So people will be saying words either in between sets or prior to the concert. The biggest thing with this is education and spurring empathy. And for people who are able to get around and do drive, helping them understand why what we're doing is so important. Mark, since you are already in contact, I'm guessing you were working with Sharon, the program director over there. I would
Yes.
love to have Sharon or the senior center have a booth there with information and have her also advertise for this, because the senior center is a big part of why we are doing a week without driving. So I would love Sharon to be a part of this. If you could encourage and ask her to be a part of this event and then advertise at the senior center.
And they do a monthly newsletter. September was just published.
Yeah.
And so there'll be time to put that in the October newsletter.
Fabulous. Fabulous. So
Good.
that's really, I mean, that's the part I'm running. Finn, I would love to hear from you about ideas that you may have for student events. If we wanted, I've already gotten businesses to sign on for giving some prizes away, but if you want to maybe talk about encouraging people like to bike or walk to school that week versus being dropped off or taking just the bus.
Yeah. So first, I did have a couple of questions about that, if that's good. I noticed it says in the agenda, it says Wheel and Sprocket gift card drawing. And so is Wheel and Sprocket the company that you already reached out to and they agreed to give gift cards? Okay, sounds good. I was curious about that, or if that was like a tentative uh, item. Yeah, so I was thinking this is a good um, sort of introduction, could be a good introduction to a larger campaign, because obviously a prize like a gift card is appealing, but I do think it's important to not just make it more about the prize in the long term, make it less about the prize and more about actually changing habits. Um, and so I'd be happy to take any notes about ideas anyone else has, but I'm very interested in starting a camp, like a more of a general campaign about, I was thinking some useful things could be flyers, social media aspect could be helpful. And then also there's a, school announcements that is everyone is at the high school would see every day. I think that could be a useful tool for projecting the idea and projecting the that people should be biking or walking, rolling, busing to school instead of being dropped off. That's what I think I can, as the school year rolls around, I would definitely reach out to the group that puts that on, the school announcements, and with a more concrete idea for that. But that's what I was thinking for now.
And what tactics what do you think would hit home the hardest with students, like talking about the environmental, public health? I mean, I know a lot of students are very concerned about environmental issues because you're going to be taking on this stuff. Maybe think about what would strike a nerve for people the most and kind of guiding it that way.
I really appreciate that input, and I think it's a great idea. I do think environmental impact is something a lot of students care a lot about. So I will take that into consideration. Thank you.
I just wanted to say that sounds lovely, and thank you for taking that on. Um, yep.
Thank you.
I like that because I voluntold myself, I'm on for the stamp rally. The question I have about that, um, I suspect that a just in case I haven't said I'm a programmer enough tonight, I suspect that a technological, an app-like, if you will, solution might be simplest. I have noted rather than printing cards and trying to hand them out to people and then having stamps hidden all around the city. There are a number of, because this is a common thing in Japan, there are a number of digital stamp rally applications that already exist, but they all cost money. So they cost money to make or deploy. The question I have then is if I pay for that, is that kosher? I, to be clear, I would not be asking for reimbursement for the city from the city or anything like that. But is that even allowed? That's what I'm not entirely clear on. I
Um,
don't know.
yeah, to that point, we never ask volunteers to spend money out of their own pocket for events like this. I just want to be very clear
And
about that. But to
right,
your
right.
direct
I would
question,
be,
I
I
don't
would
see
be
an issue with
willing
that.
to
Yeah.
because of the impact because of what I see as the potential for this thing. But you're saying no issue.
Not that I'm aware of, I'll double check on that, but I
Okay.
don't believe so.
Okay. Also, if people have suggestions for specific areas, that would be cool. I do tend to be a bit of a homebody, so I was thinking some of the things might be places in the city I haven't been to yet. There are actually more than you might think. Um, but I am open to ideas. Kirsten, you have your hand up.
Yeah. Um, Scott, can we chat with Abby? The Sustainability Committee may have some funds to pay for that app because then we could reuse it. There may be, or tourism. Those would be the two ways that we could probably get that paid for because the tourism board, that it would be helping the businesses, it would be helping the area. It'd be a challenge drawing people from maybe outside of Middleton to come and do this, but also the sustainability committee could, you know,
Yeah, sustainability does have a operating fund. Yeah, that could be an option I'll follow up on.
awesome. Thank you.
Keaton.
I just wanted to throw out for locations. One thing that I've been delighted with finding over the past couple of years are those smaller kind of conservancy areas like Graber Pond. I did not get out to Graber Pond until Kirsten orchestrated the community ride out there, and I was delighted by it. So just kind of some of those smaller conservancy areas like Tiedeman's Pond, also. And I think there is actually another one real close to Tiedeman's that I've also not been to yet. But
Stricker.
I mean, what's it?
Stricker.
Yeah, there you go. So that would be my suggestion on that front.
Steven, your camera's off, by the way.
Yeah, I noticed. Yeah, I hate to bug out on you guys on my very first meeting, but I had allocated an hour and a half for this meeting, and it seems to be going long. So I'm going to have to step out. I have plans that need my attention.
All right. Have a good night then.
Oh, thank you very much. Bye bye.
And we do still have quorum, so we're good. Um, um, do we have any other ideas right now?
I just want to say we're not gonna do the field trip with the Wisconsin. That's just too much right now. I think for our first year, we need to kind of simplify this and
Okay.
sure that what we do is clean. But the Council of the Blind and Visually Impaired will be included at the concert, and they will make
Okay.
sure that we're following better than ADA policy.
Yeah. To that point, my feedback would be, broadly doing fewer things really well is always better than trying to spread yourself too thin. So it sounds
Mhm.
like we have a lot on the plate already. I think just really nailing those would be the best approach. But if people have other ideas, they're always welcome to shoot us an email and we can, assist however we can. But yeah, that was just my quick bit of feedback
Ben.
there.
Could I get a little clarification on what the stamp rally entails? I remember the first meeting that I sat in on, but I wasn't actually
Yeah.
on the meeting yet. I remember we talked about this, or you all talked about this, but I would just like a little clarification what that is going to entail.
In general, so the other issue is that in theory there should be a prize. And I don't know what that would be. But in principle, you go from place to place, you collect stamps along the way. In this case, they'll be digital stamps. And then again, yeah, and then in theory, you get all the stamps, you get a prize. I which I don't know, and also because I'm kind of lame, I kind of feel like maybe the prize should just be bragging rights, but or just you had a nice time. I think sometimes things like that are fine, but if people have cool ideas, I am still open. We do still have uh, just over just over a month to kind of plan this. So,
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Thanks for uh
mhm.
clarifying that.
For what it's worth, I'm in the same boat of the prize is the activity. You got
Yes,
out, you saw more of the community, interacted with people. That sounds lovely to me.
Yes, I agree. I
the
think
real
that
prize
sounds
was the
very
journey.
enjoyable.
All right. Okay, so it sounds like we've got what we've got for tonight, and we'll kind of mull it over a bit more. Um, keep in touch with each other. And then, all right, so item number 4, the committee work plan. So I think I should describe this because this whole thing is my fault. Um, so the committee work plan, every year we try to list out our big goals for, and this is for, think of this in terms of, I, well, we have this as calendar year. Um, I Ideally, I would like this to be for the appointment year, which functionally, I guess, is May to April. That kind of it's a little trickier, but it fits with what we actually have time for. Because we don't want to be volunteering for stuff and then not re-upping. So this is the big things that we're working on. so that we can plan them ahead of time, uh, and make this information available to the public, especially. Um, yeah, okay. So, at the moment, let's just go over, since we are doing calendar year at the moment, let's go over what we've got. We have complete streets. Are we? I'm hemming and hawing. I have actually forgotten when we did the annual progress report. My brain's fried. Scott, do you know when that was?
I believe Daphne completed that over the winter, and that was early this year. I think that's
Okay,
January or February every year is when that's get published and reviewed by the committee.
okay. That makes sense. That makes sense why that's on there. Okay. So we have our annual progress report. We have the active transportation plan, which we are getting close. Thank you very much for your work on that, Scott. Thanks everybody else for feedback. Um, we have Bike Week, which was completed for now. Week without driving, we were just talking about. Um, so what's left to what's on there tonight? Um, I'm gonna skip over my thing really quick and do it last. Kirsten, the coordinating with the police department and the unsafe crossings.
Yep. So the coordinating with the police department is ongoing. We've been working with them a lot lately on the e-moto and e-bike educational stuff, and I've seen a huge turnaround with the city posting the Monday stuff on social media, talking about vulnerable user rights and safety, which the police department also then posts on their site. I think that we need to have a little bit more of that. As the e-bike, e-moto stuff is changing nonstop. I would really like to meet again with them to educate them on that, or have Daphne or Scott meet with them. Because that is the biggest probably concern, is the e-bike, e-moto stuff, as well as crosswalk information. I have found that the crosswalks have gotten better with all of the postings that the city and the police department have done. I think that those Monday things, and if we can keep them rolling, revisit them often, are excellent because it's very educational. The unsafe crossings, the signage is up at Costco and Goodwill. Scott and Tad, you both know that I requested at the next meeting sightlines be brought up, which will help that because the signs are not doing enough to make those areas safe. So we're going to take another step and go to sightlines to make sure that the drivers of the vehicles can see oncoming pedestrians and cyclists. And hopefully that will help a little bit more, especially at the Costco one. I have a feeling we're going to have to take another step, but one step at a time, right? And then, yeah, that's, high school outreach. Finn's doing a great job. I think that, yeah, ongoing, we'll keep that there, but I don't think there's a whole lot of discussion because Finn is a rock star.
All right, sounds cool. Complete streets implementation guidance. I am behind. That is where I am. I've been working, hopefully we'll be able to get back to our kind of uh, piece by piece um, drip feed for going over the pieces. Um, and at that time, we can also catch our newer members up with what that even is. Um, oh, hang on. Sorry, I need to open a thing that's telling me what I'm doing. Okay, I've been working most recently on making a first pass at some of the implementation steps. Um, I've been shamelessly copying from Madison's plan where appropriate, and then um, I'm working on the working on researching the ARP guide for like actually evaluating how you're doing instead of just slapping things down and saying we're good. Actually evaluating what you're doing. So that is what I need to get back on. But it continues. Related to that, Scott, would it be okay if we did another kind of what's the word I'm thinking of? Like thing where I can talk out loud and bounce ideas off you so I don't get stuck in my own head.
Yeah, always happy to do that.
Okay. I will email you when I figure out when that might be. Awesome.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. We don't have any staff updates on the list. Future agenda items. You can, Kirsten, did you have something to?
Are we discussing what our the upcoming year goals are? Since we're on this,
Yes, yes. Thank you for
yeah.
What are our does anybody have any other major goals for the upcoming year that they would like to see?
Tad, if I could just quickly put my 2 cents in,
Yeah.
the completing a walk audit or bike audit. So having one
Okay.
in the next calendar year completed, since we have not done one yet, and then looking at implementing Vision Zero as well. And I know that we'll have several alders that are in favor of that.
And just, I know we're close to time, but just one thing to put on top of that is right now in the planning department's budget, we have planned for a Century and Allen small area plan. And so doing a walk out in that area would be a really helpful touch point for us to incorporate a lot of walkability improvements
Yes.
as part of that planning process.
Does anybody else have anything else that they feel strongly about? All right. You're allowed to, but I'm not upset because, like Scott, I do think having a few things that we do well is better than stretching. I tend to stretch myself too thin, so uh, want people to help rein me in. Okay. Um, so I don't think we have staff updates. Uh, future events, unless you have something just bubbling up. If you have future events, remember to email Daphne or Scott, depending on who's in town. Or you can email them both at the same time. See who picks up. All right. We are at the end of our agenda for tonight. Thank you, everybody, for sticking in there. 2 hours. So, seriously, thank you so much. And have a good night.
Thanks. Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.